You ever open your bank app and feel your chest tighten, like you already know the number won't be what you hoped? Or maybe you've stood in a store aisle debating if that $7 item is really worth it today. It doesn't take long before you hear the voice, "You can't afford that." But what if I told you that voice isn't actually yours? Somewhere between kindergarten nap time and learning to ride a bike, your brain was absorbing every belief around you. That money is hard to come by. That rich people are greedy. That wanting more makes you selfish. You weren't taught those ideas. You were programmed with them. Joe Dispenza says, the moment you feel lack, you start to create from that lack. And when that happens, we don't just think poor. We start to live poor, act poor, feel poor. Napoleon Hill wrote, "The poverty you know is just a reflection of your thoughts." But here's the good news. Just like a program can be installed, it can be rewritten. And today you're going to discover how to update your mental code so your reality can finally catch up with your potential. We'll look at where this old script came from, how it traps us in emotional loops, and most importantly, how people who rewrote their inner story ended up rewriting their bank accounts too. So if you're tired of trying every money trick and still feeling stuck, maybe the real problem isn't in your wallet. Maybe it's in your wiring. When Ed Mylett was just starting out, he wasn't some business giant. He was sleeping on a floor with nothing but a beat-up mattress. What changed wasn't a lucky break. It was a shift in what he believed was possible. See, Ed grew up watching his father struggle with addiction, and he inherited more than a roof over his head. He inherited a mindset of limitation. Until one day he realized that the story he was living wasn't written by him. And that's when things started to change. Let's rewind this back to you. Your thoughts about money, about success, about what's realistic. Most of them didn't start with you. According to Joe Dispenza, your brain was in a hyperabsorbent state during childhood. Brainwaves in theta and alpha. Which means you weren't analyzing, just recording. That's when your internal money code got written. Maybe you heard things like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," or "We're not the kind of people who get rich." Those phrases become truths. Not because they are, but because your subconscious accepted them as fact before you had the tools to question anything. You grew up hearing your parents argue about bills. You saw anxiety on their faces when rent was due. And all of that became your emotional blueprint. Napoleon Hill said, "Thoughts are things." But when those thoughts get repeated with strong emotions like fear, shame, or guilt, they hardwire into your brain. They become part of how you see the world. So now, as an adult, you work hard. You save. You maybe even try to manifest abundance. But if that old code is still running underneath, it's like trying to plant roses on top of concrete. Nothing sticks. And this is where most people get stuck. They repeat affirmations. They create vision boards. But deep down they still feel unworthy. They still feel like money belongs to someone else. And it's that emotional signal, not your words, that the universe picks up on. Joe Dispenza says your personal reality is a reflection of your personality. So if your personality is shaped by old thoughts and old emotions, your reality will just be more of the same. Florence Scovel Shinn once said, "The game of life is a game of boomerangs." Our thoughts, deeds and words return to us sooner or later with astounding accuracy. That means every thought you've accepted, every story you've lived, every feeling you haven't questioned, they're all still out there circling back. So the question becomes, are you ready to become the author of your own financial story? Tony Robbins once said that gratitude is the antidote to fear. Sounds simple, but for most people, living in a state of thankfulness before success shows up feels unnatural, almost fake. But that's exactly the point. You don't feel it because you're still waiting for your reality to change before you change how you feel. Here's what Joe Dispenza teaches. Most people are stuck in what he calls the Newtonian model of reality, cause in effect, they wait for the success, the money, the relationship to feel gratitude. But in the quantum model, it works the other way around. You feel the emotion first, and that emotional vibration becomes the cause that creates the effect. So why is this so hard to do? Because we've been trained to believe what we see, instead of feeling what we believe. That's where the emotional loop of lack starts. You check your bank account, feel disappointed. That disappointment creates more thoughts of lack. Those thoughts trigger more feelings of unworthiness. And the cycle repeats. Catherine Ponder said, "What you radiate outward in your thoughts, feelings, mental pictures and words, you attract into your life." That means if you're radiating frustration, impatience, or desperation, even while visualizing millions, you're still creating from the wrong frequency. Let's look at Tony Robbins again. Early in his life he was broke, living in a tiny apartment. But instead of focusing on what he didn't have, he forced himself, every single morning, to feel grateful for what he wanted as if it was already real. That's when things began to change. Because the emotional signal he was sending out had shifted. Joe Dispenza explains that the heart produces a magnetic field, and that signal carries your intentions into the world. But it only works when your heart and brain are in harmony. If you're thinking, I am abundant, but feeling, I am broke, the message gets scrambled. You're sending static into the universe. The challenge then is to align your thoughts and feelings. Not just during meditation but throughout your day. When you're in traffic, when the bill comes, when you hear someone else talk about how much they earn. These are the moments that define your energetic state. So here's a question. What would happen if you practiced feeling financially free before the money arrives? What would change if you spent just 5 minutes a day embodying the emotions of wealth? Freedom, joy, generosity. Even when your reality doesn't match yet. Your energy is your currency. And when you learn to spend it wisely, life starts to pay you back in ways you never expected. There's a moment when everything clicks. It's not when the money hits your account or when someone finally sees your value. It's when you stop waiting and start being. That's the turning point between manifesting by accident and creating your life on purpose. Joe Dispenza explains that most people live as victims of their circumstances. They think the outer world must change for the inner world to follow. But true change works the other way around. You become the version of you who already has the life you want. Then your reality catches up. That's where the magic of synchronicity comes in. Dispenza calls it confirmation from the field. When your thoughts, emotions, and energy are in alignment, life starts sending you signals. The right people, ideas, opportunities. But only if you're tuned in. Keanu Reeves is someone who embodies quiet alignment. Despite his fame and fortune, he's never chased after more. He stays grounded, generous, centered. And somehow the right roles, the right timing keep showing up. He moves from stillness and life meets him there. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the opposite kind of force, yet just as aligned. As a teenager in Austria, he visualized himself winning Mr. Olympia, living in America, acting in blockbuster films. He felt it so deeply that his environment didn't stand a chance. The world had to catch up. Napoleon Hill wrote, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But belief isn't just a thought, it's an emotional state. That's why you have to become a vibrational match for your desires. Not once. Every day. So how do you stay in that state when nothing around you looks like abundance? Start by writing it down. Not a to-do list, a to-feel list. How would you feel if your financial freedom arrived today? Free, safe, grateful, empowered? Choose 3 emotions and embody them. That's your job. Dispenza says, the longer you hold a state of being, the more you draw that future to you. It's not about forcing the outcome. It's about living in alignment long enough for the outcome to arrive on its own. And when those little synchronicities start appearing, a call out of nowhere, an unexpected opportunity, a chance encounter, take a breath. Smile. That's the universe checking in. Hey, I got your signal. You're not here to chase money. You're here to become someone money feels at home with. You made it to the end, but maybe this is actually the beginning. The beginning of a new identity. One where you're no longer reacting to life from old wounds, but responding to it with new awareness. One where you stop asking, how do I get more money? And start asking, who do I need to become to attract the abundance I deserve? Joe Dispenza reminds us that every time we make a different choice, we're signaling to the universe. I'm no longer that version of me. I've upgraded. And the universe, like a mirror, reflects that new version back to us through opportunities, relationships, and yes, financial flow. Napoleon Hill said, success comes to those who become success conscious. That's more than just thinking positive. It means cultivating the emotional state, the focus, and the habits of someone who lives in abundance, even when your bank account hasn't caught up yet. So today, make one internal shift. Choose to feel empowered instead of helpless, grateful instead of bitter, aligned instead of anxious. That one shift changes your vibration, and that changes everything. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. But if you can feel different, you can attract different. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, let it ripple outward. Drop a like, share this with someone you care about, and subscribe so we can keep walking this path together. Because abundance isn't just a number, it's a frequency, and it's one you were born to tune into. Well, you've tapped into the law of attraction. Feel that positive energy? This video found you for a reason. Let's amplify it together. Subscribe to manifest more life-changing content. Like to send positivity back to the universe. Share with someone you care about. You'll both benefit. Comment below with your thoughts or questions. Your engagement grows our community. Next video, I'll reveal a secret to manifest desires faster. Don't miss it. Join our vibrant community of manifestors. Let's co-create an incredible reality together. Your journey to unlimited abundance starts now. I believe in you.